After I mowed my elderly neighbor's lawn all summer, I got a letter from a lawyer demanding $2,000 for property damage. I didn't ask for your help, her son said over the fence. I didn't respond. I just delivered the signed thank you card she'd written and the check she'd given me. I'm a 61-year-old guy living in a small neighborhood outside Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's a quiet place. Older folks, a few young families. The kind of area where you know most of your neighbors by name, or at least by routine. I moved here with my wife after our last kid left for college. We wanted peace. That's mostly what we've had. Last spring, I started mowing lawns. Not as a job. Just mine and a few others on the block. I'm retired, and I like staying busy. There's something simple and satisfying about keeping grass neat. One of the houses I started mowing belonged to a woman named Mrs. Tully. Everyone called her that. Nobody used her first name. She's got to be in her 80s, slow-moving, real polite, always in a cardigan no matter the temperature. Her lawn was a mess. Weeds everywhere, grass to the knees, flowers dead in their pots. She'd sit on the porch with her walker and just look at it. You could tell she wasn't happy about it, but also couldn't do much. One day, I was finishing my yard and saw her struggling to lift a little gardening shovel. She looked like she might tip over. So I went over and asked if she wanted help. She nodded and smiled, like she was embarrassed but relieved. She didn't say much, just motioned to the shed. I figured that meant yes. I mowed the lawn that day, cleaned up the sidewalk edges, and pulled a bunch of weeds from her flower beds. When I finished, she handed me a glass of water and said, "That looks so much better." It became a weekly thing. Every Saturday, I'd head over with my tools. Sometimes she'd wave from the porch. Sometimes she wasn't outside at all. Once, she handed me a thank you card with a check inside. It was for $100. I told her I wasn't doing it for money. She said, "I know. I just want to say thank you." I cashed it, mostly because I didn't want to offend her. Fast forward to late August. I'm in her backyard, mowing like usual. I hear someone pull into the driveway. A man gets out of a truck. Tall guy, maybe mid-50s. Tan, bald on top, loud voice. I figured maybe it was a nephew or something. I nodded and said hello. He didn't say anything back, just stared at me and walked inside. A few minutes later, he came through the back gate. "Who the hell are you?" he asked. I stopped the mower. "I'm your mom's neighbor," I said. "I've been helping with the lawn." He shook his head slowly, like I was some kind of idiot. "She doesn't need you doing that. She didn't ask for help." I told him she did, that she gave me the shed key and even paid me once. He looked angry, like really angry. Said something about people taking advantage of her. Said, "She's old. She doesn't always know what she's doing." I told him that may be true, but I didn't take anything from her. I didn't argue. I just went back to mowing. He stood there for a second, then walked off. A week later, I get a letter, certified mail, from a lawyer. It says I caused property damage by doing unauthorized landscaping, that I owe $2,000 for damage to hedges, grass, and decorative elements. Decorative elements? The only thing back, there was a broken bird bath and 2 half-dead bushes. I thought it had to be a mistake, but the letter had their family name, Tully. It wasn't fake. I couldn't believe it. I'd spent 3 months helping this woman. I didn't ask for anything. I used my own tools. I didn't even break anything. Her yard looked better than it had in years. And now I was being threatened with legal action? So I pulled together everything I had. The thank you card, the check stub, and photos. I'd taken a few pictures early on, before and after, just because I was proud of the work. The grass was a jungle before I touched it. I walked over that same weekend. Mrs. Tully wasn't home, but the son was. He opened the door with this smug look, like he expected me to argue. I didn't say a word. I handed him a folder. Inside was the card with her handwriting. "Thank you for everything. You've made this summer so much easier for me. M. Tully." The check, canceled and signed. The pictures. One of the yard before I started, another after it was clean, and one of her smiling while I worked. He looked through it, didn't say anything, just stared at the card. I turned around and left. A few days passed. I figured that would be the end of it, that he'd see the truth and drop whatever nonsense he'd started. But then I got another letter. This time not from a lawyer from the county. It said I was being reported for unauthorized use of private property, and they were investigating a claim of trespassing. I stood in my garage, holding the paper, not even sure how to react. I hadn't trespassed. I was invited. I was thanked. Paid, even. What was happening? I called the county office and explained everything. The woman on the phone was polite but cold. She said, "It's under review." That's all she'd say. I asked if they had a copy of the thank you card or check. She said I'd have a chance to submit my side if it moved forward. That same week, I saw Mrs. Tully for the first time in a while. She was walking very slowly up her driveway with a home health nurse. She looked tired, smaller. I waved. She didn't wave back. She didn't even look at me. The nurse gave me a polite smile. But that was it. I started wondering if the sun had gotten to her. Maybe told her something, made her afraid, confused her. Maybe he convinced her I was stealing or using her. I didn't know. But the silence felt heavy. The next morning, I woke up to find something strange on my lawn. There were hedge clippings and pulled weeds, stuff I'd cleaned up from her yard, dumped right in the middle of my front yard. Like someone had taken a bag of yard waste and scattered it on purpose. My wife saw it too. She came out in her robe, looked at the mess, and asked, "What the hell is this?" I didn't answer. I just stared at it. Later that afternoon, I noticed a car parked across the street. A silver Buick. Same one the son had been driving. He was sitting in it, looking at his phone, not even trying to hide the fact that he was watching the house. It started happening more. I'd come home from the grocery store, and the Buick would be there. Always parked at an angle, just sitting. Some nights it was gone. Some nights it stayed parked until well after dark. One morning, I found the shed in my backyard open. The lock was busted, my mower was gone. Not stolen, just gone. I called the police. Filed a report. They said they'd look into it, but nothing came of it. That was when I decided I wasn't going to just let this slide. If they wanted to drag this out, I was going to fight. Not with threats or yelling. I wasn't going to lose my temper. But I was going to keep records. I was going to make sure every word, every visit, every threat, it all went on paper. I contacted a lawyer. A good one. Showed him everything. He raised an eyebrow when he saw the thank you card. He nodded at the pictures. And when I told him about the stalking, the dumped yard waste, the missing mower, he said one word: harassment. So we filed a countersuit. Defamation, harassment, false claims. I didn't want money. I wanted it to stop. I wanted him to know he picked the wrong neighbor to mess with. The lawsuit was filed quietly, but word got around the neighborhood faster than I expected. People I barely knew started giving me that look. The one that says, "I heard something, but I'm not getting involved." A few neighbors actually came over and asked what was going on. I told them the truth. Simple as that. I mowed her lawn. She thanked me. Her son got mad. Now he's trying to drag me through the mud. Some believed me. Some looked uncomfortable, like they didn't want to take sides. One guy, Larry from across the street, said, "That family's always been strange." I'm not surprised. But things didn't calm down. One afternoon, about 3 weeks after the countersuit was filed, I came home to find my back gate open. Not just open, broken. The latch had been ripped clean off. My wife stayed inside, scared. I checked the shed again. This time, someone had gone through everything. Not just my tools, but our storage bins too. Our old camping gear was dumped out, lawn chairs missing. I called the police again. This time, they actually sent someone who gave a damn. Officer took pictures, asked questions, said, "You know who might have done this?" I said I had a guess. I gave him the lawyer's info, gave him everything. But the officer said something that really stuck with me. If he's doing this, he wants you to react. Wants you to be the one who snaps first. That got under my skin. Because I did want to react. I wanted to walk right up to that silver Buick and drag him out by the collar. But I didn't. Instead, I went back to my lawyer. He advised we install cameras. So we did front yard, backyard, driveway, shed. I didn't want to turn my house into a fortress, but I also wasn't going to keep getting hit blind. 3 days after the cameras were up, we caught him. Middle of the night. 2:13 a.m. Clear as day on the footage, the son, climbing over the back fence, looking around with a flashlight, holding something under his arm. He walked right up to the shed, tugged on the new lock, and then left after realizing it wouldn't open. But not before he dropped a bunch of grass clippings and sticks in front of the shed door. Like he wanted to send a message. We sent the footage to our lawyer. He sent it straight to the county. This time, things moved fast. The original trespassing complaint against me was dropped immediately. No hearing, no follow-up. Just gone. The county said it was closed with prejudice. But the real twist came a few days after that. I got a call. Not from the lawyer. From Mrs. Tully's nurse. She asked if I could meet her outside, without the son around. Said Mrs. Tully wanted to speak with me, but she wasn't allowed visitors unless it was cleared by him. I agreed. We met in the back alley behind her house, near the trash bins. The nurse looked nervous. She doesn't know what he's doing, she whispered. She's not senile. She knows you helped. She tried to tell him to stop. He took her phone. I felt like the air got sucked out of me. She wrote something, the nurse said, pulling a folded piece of paper from her bag. She asked me to give it to you. It was a letter. Handwritten. Shaky but clear. I'm so sorry for what my son has done. I never asked him to speak for me. I appreciated everything you did. I never wanted this. I am not confused. I am not being taken advantage of. I wish I could say this out loud, but I'm afraid of him too. Thank you for being kind to me. Margaret Tully. That's when I realized this wasn't just about property or pride. This was about control. Her son wasn't trying to protect her. He was trying to own her. Own her house, her story, her choices. And I had gotten in the way of that, by being decent, by doing something kind that he couldn't spin into needing him. This wasn't just petty revenge. It was a power struggle. And now that I had her letter, her real words, I knew exactly what to do next. I never heard from her again after that letter. I think he moved her, maybe to a place where she couldn't write anything down. The house sits empty now, grass growing wild, just like before. I don't mow it. I don't go near it. And sometimes I wonder if she still thinks about that summer, or if I was the last person who made her feel like she still had a say in her own life. Some days, I catch myself checking the porch. Like maybe she'll be there, just once more, holding a glass of water and looking like herself. After getting her letter, everything shifted for me. I wasn't just defending myself anymore. I was protecting her, in whatever quiet way I still could. I gave the letter to my lawyer. He was dead serious when he read it. Said it opened doors we hadn't touched yet. Said the son might be skating the edge of elder abuse, depending on what else we could prove. So we started digging. We filed a formal complaint with Adult Protective Services. My lawyer submitted the video of the backyard trespassing and a letter from Mrs. Tully. The county launched an investigation. At first, it was just paperwork. But a week later, a caseworker showed up asking neighbors questions. I know, because she came to me too. She asked what kind of state Mrs. Tully was in. Was she confused? Did she ever say strange things or seem unsure? I told her no, that every time we spoke, she was sharp. Quiet, but sharp. I told her about the thank you card, about the check, about how I watched her grow more nervous as the summer went on. Then she asked about the son. What's your impression of him? I didn't even hesitate. Controlling, I said. Threatening. And not just to me. She nodded slowly and wrote something down. By the end of that week, things started happening fast. The silver Buick stopped showing up. A few neighbors said they'd seen someone from the county visit the house with a police escort. I never saw her again, not even through a window. But a for sale sign went up in the yard not long after. Just appeared one morning, planted crooked in the ground like whoever did it didn't care anymore. The grass was almost waist high again, mail overflowing from the box. I stood across the street and stared at it for a long time. Thought about walking up, just once, just to look through the windows. But I didn't. I knew she wasn't in there. A few days later, I got a package. No return address. Inside was my missing lawnmower key, the one I thought was taken from the shed weeks ago. Just the key, taped to a plain white piece of paper. Nothing written. No name. No message. Just the key. Like a quiet admission. Or a final warning. After the key showed up, I knew it wasn't over. The house might have been up for sale, but something about that quiet little package told me someone was still watching. Still trying to keep control, even if they couldn't do it in the open anymore. I kept the key in my desk drawer. Didn't tell my wife. Didn't tell my lawyer right away either. I just stared at it every couple days, wondering what it meant. It didn't feel like a gift. It felt like someone saying, I'm not done. Then, out of nowhere, I got a call from a woman named Rachel. Said she was Mrs. Tully's granddaughter. She spoke soft, nervous, like she wasn't sure I'd want to talk. She told me she hadn't seen her grandmother in over a year. That her uncle, the son, had shut everyone out. Said Mrs. Tully wasn't up for visitors, and that the house was off limits. She only found out what had been happening because of the county report. I saw your name, she said. I found your number online. I wanted to say thank you for helping her. She told me she was trying to find out where her grandmother had been moved. That her dad, the son, wasn't returning her calls. That when she went to the new assisted living place he mentioned in passing, they told her no one by that name was registered there. She sounded scared. I gave her the letter, the card, the pictures, everything I had. She started crying. That night, I got another package, left on my porch. No label, just a manila envelope. Inside were copies of old medical documents, test results, evaluations, one with dementia suspected circled in red. But here's the thing. They were dated before the summer I helped her, before the thank you card, before the check, before everything. Someone had been trying to lay the groundwork to call her unstable, long before I ever stepped foot on that lawn. They wanted to make sure no one ever believed her, no matter what she said. Rachel confirmed it, said her dad had been pushing that narrative for over a year, trying to take control of her accounts, her property. Said she wasn't safe on her own, that she didn't know what she was signing. But I knew what I saw. I knew who I spoke to. And so did she. Rachel and I kept talking after that first call. Mostly in short updates, her digging through records, me forwarding anything I found in my files. She was serious about finding her grandmother, and she had every right to be. What we uncovered together made it clear this went deeper than just some petty lawsuit. Turns out, her dad had power of attorney. He got it signed the year before, supposedly after Mrs. Tully started forgetting things. But the signature on the document? Rachel said it didn't look like her grandmother's at all. She showed it to an attorney friend of hers who said it looked inconsistent with her prior legal documents. The same day Rachel told me that, I got served again. This time, it was a cease and desist. It accused me of interfering with a private medical situation and sharing personal health records without consent. It came from a different lawyer, one hired by the son, not the original firm. The tone was nastier, less formal. It read like someone desperate to make me back off. But I wasn't going to. I gave everything to my lawyer. He wasn't surprised. He said this kind of thing happens more than people realize. Adult children isolating their elderly parents, hiding behind legal power, trying to bleed them dry. Sometimes it's for control. Sometimes it's for the house, the money, the inheritance. And sometimes it's just because they can. We filed a motion to challenge the cease and desist, attaching Rachel's statement and a forensic handwriting analysis she'd paid for herself. It wasn't enough for a criminal charge, not yet, but it was enough to raise flags. Then, about 2 weeks later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but I did. It was her, Mrs. Tully. She sounded groggy, like she'd been woken up, but it was her voice. Soft, slow, the same voice I remembered from the porch. "I don't know where I am," she said. "They keep moving me." Then the line went dead. Just like that. I sat there, phone still in my hand, staring at the wall. It was her. I know it was. After that call, I didn't sleep. I kept replaying her voice in my head, the way she said it, like a whisper that had barely made it through. "I don't know where I am." 5 words. That's all. But it hit me like a brick. I called Rachel right away. She didn't answer, but texted back within minutes. "Call you in 10. When we spoke, I told her everything, word for word. She went quiet for a few seconds, and then said, "We need to trace that call." She knew someone who worked in telecom security. Said it was a long shot, but worth trying. While she did that, I started making calls to every senior facility in a 30-mile radius, posing as a family friend, asking if Margaret Tully was listed. Most said no. A few wouldn't even check unless I had legal documents. Then, late one night, Rachel messaged me again. She'd found something. The call came from a prepaid phone purchased in Lansing, but it pinged a tower closer to Muskegon, nearly 80 miles away. Not near any of the places we'd thought to check. She found 2 elder care homes in that area that had a history of patient complaints. Understaffed, under-reviewed. The kind of places you move someone when you don't want them found. One of them had a recent intake under M. Tully. No first name listed. No photo. But the intake date matched the day after the for sale sign went up on her house. Rachel drove out there that weekend. She didn't tell them who she was at first. Just said she was checking on a relative. The front desk gave her a hard time. Said they couldn't confirm anything. She was about to leave when she caught sight of a woman being wheeled down the hall in a chair. It was her, Mrs. Tully. Thin, confused, bruises on her wrist. Rachel tried to approach, but a staff member pulled her aside, told her she'd need to speak to the legal guardian, that all visits were restricted, that the patient was non-communicative. Rachel called me from the parking lot. Her voice was shaking. She looked right at me, she said. She knew who I was. 2 days later, I got another envelope. This one was taped to my front door. No postage. No return address. Inside was a single Polaroid, a blurry shot of my house, taken from the sidewalk. On the back, in black pen, "You need to stop now." That's when I knew they weren't just trying to erase her. They were trying to scare everyone else into silence too. I handed the Polaroid to the police. Again, this time, they actually took it more seriously. My lawyer had already started building a separate case based on harassment and potential elder abuse, and now that we had an actual threat, even a subtle one, it shifted the conversation. The officer who took the report asked me straight out, "Do you feel unsafe?" I told him, "I feel like someone's watching my house at night, and no one's doing a damn thing about it." They promised to increase patrols. I didn't hold my breath. Rachel, meanwhile, didn't back down. She contacted an elder law attorney, started the process of trying to legally challenge her father's guardianship over Mrs. Tully. It would be slow, ugly, full of red tape, but she was all in. The house still hadn't sold. Grass nearly up to the windows now. The sign had been knocked over in a storm, and no one had bothered to fix it. It just laid there, half buried in the weeds. Then something strange happened. One morning I walked outside and found an envelope in my mailbox. Inside was a copy of Mrs. Tully's original will, the one from nearly 20 years ago. Clear as day, it left the house to my granddaughter Rachel, along with a small savings account and instructions that she was to oversee any future care decisions. It had never been updated, not officially, which meant Rachel should have been in charge all along. The signature was notarized, witnessed, legally solid. Somehow, this copy had survived everything and someone wanted me to have it. No name, no note. Just the truth, showing up quietly like it had nowhere else left to go. Rachel took it straight to her lawyer. They filed an emergency motion that same day. We didn't know if it would work, if the court would see it as enough to stop the son, even temporarily. But it was something. And that night, for the first time in weeks, the silver Buick came back. It didn't park on the street. It sat at the end of my driveway. Lights off, engine running, and didn't move for almost an hour. The next morning, the car was gone. No note, no damage, just the tire marks in the gravel, like it had been waiting for something that never happened. I haven't seen him since. The case is still open. Rachel's still fighting. And sometimes I still catch myself mowing my lawn slower, like maybe I'll hear her voice again from the porch, asking if the roses survived the heat. But the truth is, I don't even know if she remembers me. And what keeps me up the most is knowing he was able to make the world forget her long before she ever forgot herself.